Good morning, John of Custom back again. Blessings. When I was young and living in Howth, County Dublin, every summer there was the blessing of the boats, that's the fishing boats. And it went on a fair bit of the day, usually I think it was Sunday. I think it was on a Sunday. And each boat was blessed by the priest, and there was crowds at it. And then oftentimes you got a trip on one of the fishing boats. And I used to love to go on those ones that had what I call bunks. I love to see, used to always look at boats to see how many portholes were on the boats as a young person, so that people then could have a rest in their bunks. And the more of those little portholes that they had, that the more bunks. So, and then the bigger the boat, the stronger the horsepower. I used to like boats with horsepower. And I might ask, what horsepower is this boat of somebody? Because it was certain horsepower, and it might have good high horsepower. You go on a smaller boat and it wouldn't have the same horsepower and maybe bunks. But you get a trip with the boat. Now, I always try to get on one of these boats with the horsepower, the strong horsepower, and bunks. And I used to like to sort of ask whoever in charge, okay, you go down and have a look at the bunks. And you'd have to go down a ladder, and like that's the way. Nothing was sort of VIP stuff. It was, but they were there, and I often saw 6 bunks. So that means 6 of them could have a bit of a rest, because fishing was a tough old job. And then I used to look at the rails, because when the boat would be out in maybe rough water, they'd be casting out nets. So I think they had that high enough so that you could that you wouldn't fall off. Because with the wind and the rain, perhaps the boat would be, the deck would be kind of slippery. But I think you had clothes or boots that wouldn't be slipping on it, that would have a grip. So all these things had to be taken care of. But I was always interested in that, what it was like, and then how many, I might ask, how many fishermen is on this boat? And I'd be told, and then I might ask, and what about the skipper? Is he in charge? Oh, that's right, he's in charge. And where does he be? Oh, he'll be in the cabin, of the boat, and then he can give the orders, cast out the nets here. Jesus used to say that to the apostles when they're out fishing in the Sea of Galilee. And they come in and he say, did you catch anything, friends? No, we were out all night, we caught nothing. I often wondered did they ever catch anything, but Jesus say, go on down there a bit, and I think you might get some fish. And because I often did, and often had to call other ones, got so many fish. The went nets nearly broke. So that's the great gift that Jesus had, isn't it? So the boat was blessed. Now, I don't know if they're blessed nowadays, because since we joined the EU, I think fishermen all around the country, and especially in Killybegs, that has great big ocean-going ships. I often had a look at them, and they have plenty of bunks. Big boats would be going miles out. But I think our fishing rights was given away, and every Tom, Dick, and Harry that have fish more regular than we have. We used to have it on a Friday. Friday was a day that you had fish, and I lived at Howth, and sometimes the smell of fish used to not be to my way of liking, kind of thing. But otherwise, it was good, and in some countries like Spain, and I think France, they have fish more frequent than we do, because you go into a supermarket and you see a whole heap of rows for fish in Spain, especially, nearly more than what it'd be for meat and that kind of thing, and ham. We used to get, we were in Spain there, we had a little place there in Spain, near Alicante, which you could fly into from Aer Lingus or Ryanair. They flew into Murcia, a port now, not the city, an airport. So you had a choice. And but the supermarkets had nearly as much space for fish. And there'd be a smell of fish when you'd go in, and you thought the Spaniards had eaten fish. So they'd be fishing in our waters. And then clear it out. So our fishermen are limited to this, and they can't catch this or that or the other. So, I mean, that wasn't the way it was when I was young. So I think fishermen have been victimised in some ways. The same as like they're trying to victimise farmers now with cutting, with reducing their herd and maybe affecting our exports. Because we have great exports in the food and cheese and all the rest of it derived from milk. Don't forget that. So it's the blessing. And I wonder is that still going on? I'll be up and hooked. I happen to be there and they can walk down the pier, the East Pier, and sometimes down the West Pier where the fishing boats are. I don't think there's as many as there used to be. There's a lot of yachts out there. And because no matter when you go, the place seems to be packed. People must like the smell of the sea air or something, or certainly to go to Holt you can't get parking. No matter what time you're there. They're marching along the pier. Yeah. So it's the blessing of the boats and the blessing of things that occur. There used to be the blessing of animals. I remember that. I think it was in Dublin somewhere, King's Inns or somewhere like that, around that area. And the blessing of dogs and cats. Yeah, it was that. So it's a tradition in this country that's good. And I wonder is it still continual? I'll make my inquiries and report accordingly. So this is something that blessings and our work can be blessed. I have my little prayers, the miracle prayer and the Holy Spirit, and these are useful prayers. It's much the same as blessings for our day to be blessed in whatever we do and whoever we meet. Yeah. So there you are. Little story about the blessing of the boats. Yeah. To say sometimes that Titanic that sank on its maiden voyage, they was going too fast, and the captain was warned about the danger of icebergs, but he was overruled by the chairman of that line, that crowd, that something line that owned that boat. So they were going too fast for the conditions obtaining. There was icebergs, and it hit an iceberg at speed. That's why there were so many people lost. So you can't. You've got to take account of what's around, and don't be going too fast when there's icebergs. And this was the Atlantic, so it was a great loss of life. And to say that the people in the shipyards there were mostly from the Protestant class, and they were bitterly anti-Catholic, and somebody used to say that they wrote in some way or another an anti-Pope. This was in my time when I was young. This was the reason that it sank. Don't know how true it is, but there could be some truth in it. Yeah. So there you are. The blessing of both is so important, isn't it? And that's the important thing. So bye now. Just remember that little story about the blessings. And ask God to bless your work each day. It's another blessing. Bye now.